Welcome to ExN Conversations, Episode 1, Why Am I Here? And Where I Came From. So a bit of a context about this episode isn't about motivation. It's for you to understand who am I, where I came from, and why these conversations matter. So I'll start way from beginning of my early life in Lithuania. I grew up in Lithuania during the collapse of the Soviet Union. I was a kid in 1991, tank invasion, and all system collapsed in front of us. Violence wasn't abstract, it was normalized. I was stabbed. I learned how fragile life is early stage of my life. Bit of a sport, using it as survival. Sport entered my life earlier, not for medals, but for structure. Boxing, kickboxing, judo, karate, basketball, football, even horse riding. Sports gave me discipline when everything else felt chaotic. A little bit of a dark years of my life. Drugs entered my life earlier, including heroin. Violence escalated, jail cells, street fights, a robbery that nearly landed me 2 years in prison, 3 rehab attempts, and all of these things happened before I was 16 years old. This is said not for the shock value. It matters because it explains the hunger and the edge. So, a bit of leaving Lithuania. At the age of 16, I moved to London. Lived there with my mum and kneeling for 2 months. Then I moved out. Terrible English. No safety net. Found work in the kitchen. Lived in Halsden. Fantastic place to live. Work ethic over the talent. That's one thing for sure. Within 6 months, I became a head chef. That's 16 and a half years old. Not because I was the most talented, but because I outworked everybody. Part 2. What shaped me? The Gary Club years. I joined Gary Club as a trainee chef in 2002. Realistically, a way to pay £8,000 a year. Called me the trainee chef. Lived in staff accommodations in Covent Garden for about 5 years. I was 17, hungry, focused, obsessed with building a future. The club paid for my education, and the Q2, 3 and 4, I worked full-time while studying part-time. Got my motorbike license, bought myself a first bike, my little chopper, called it Lucia. I spent 20 years working in London kitchens. Worked with and learned from Gordon Ramsay, Philip Howard, Richard Corrigan, Nuno Mendes, and many more. I chased excellence, sometimes at a cost. Some kitchens were 120-hour weeks. Alcohol and drugs reappeared. I burned myself out by age of 30. 106 kilograms, which is over 17 stone, unhealthy and exhausted. Family and reality check. I was married, had 2 children, my beautiful kids, Sophia and Hugo, before I turned 30. Then the life hit hard. While working for Gordon Ramsay, my 4-year-old daughter, Sophia, told me one day she had a stomachache. She was rushed into Royal Marsden, diagnosed with leukemia. 4 of us lived in the hospital for 2 months. That breaks you or rebuilds you. Not sure which one it is. Choosing different escape routes. Alcohol and drugs wouldn't help my daughter. One evening in the parents' room in the hospital, I saw a poster. London to Paris ride. Raise money for your nominated charity. That trip, I raised £7,000 for Royal Marsden in Sutton, my Sophia's ward. And that started to change everything. Sport became a purpose. It became my outlet. Not as to escape, but expression. Dozens of sportives, many over 200 kilometers. Sprint and Olympic triathlons, marathons, 8 Ironman finishes, ultra-distance events, including SAS selection event in the Brecon Beacons in Wales. I even cycled to Lithuania from here, from London, unsupported, 400 kilometers a day, 5 consecutive days, and I raised £10,000 for Cancer Research UK. Again, this was done for Sophia's illness. My kids came to my races. I go to theirs. They're both competitive swimmers. We have even raced on the same courses together. The reset. In 2025, my 16-year marriage ended. Painful for all of us. But 2026, I'm turning the page. My kids have 2 homes, 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays. More love, no less. Healing and understanding. I started working with a specialist psychologist. A year later, I was diagnosed with a complex PTSD. For the first time in my life, I started to make sense. Healing isn't linear, but it's real. Building ExN Social. My business journey started in 2015 when Sophia went into remission. I became the main carer while my ex pursued her finance career in the city. I have tried multiple ventures: endurance nutrition brand, failed, lack of funding; healthy meal company with an apprentice finalist, failed, lack of business structure. But sports stayed consistent. Became a British triathlon coach, coach kids triathlon club, adults 1-to-1, athletes, qualified as a bike mechanic, eventually opened the ExN Social in Grinshire Green, Bromley, specialty coffee roasted in-house, bike workshop, coaching, cycling and a running club, and now building a private gym for 1-to-1s. ExN is about a community, not ego. We are approaching 5 years by the end of 2026 and still growing. This podcast isn't about perfection. It's about progress, about honest conversations, about becoming better, slowly consistently together. If you need a chat, want to improve yourself, or curious about endurance sport, are thinking about your first triathlon, or maybe even an Ironman, or maybe a first 5K, or just want a genuinely good cup of coffee, come to see us at ExN in Grinshire Green. Watch this space.